Hey everyone, welcome to this week's bonus show. I am your host, Andrea Chalupa. I am calling all our beautiful artists out there to join the Gaslit Nation Make Art Democracy Challenge. Submit your music to us, make a song, whatever song it is. Just stare down that blank page and share your beautiful soul with us. Just submit it. Just submit your song. Look out for the link in the show notes for this week's episode. It's always there where you can submit your music for a chance to have it be the opening song on Gaslit Nation and to share your statement of what inspired the song on the show. And I have to tell you, as a screenwriter, as a creative writer, as a journalist, filmmaker, I really want to learn songwriting. So I would love to do some sort of virtual workshop with an extraordinary songwriter. So if that is you, come share your brain juice with us, because that's one of the things I'd love to do before I leave this life, is to write and produce a song. So I'm telling you guys, let's do it. This is how we're going to get through these dark times, is shining our light out there together. So look out for the link in the show notes where you can submit your song for consideration to have it played here on Gaslit Nation. We always love hearing from you, our beloved, wonderful listeners. And then a reminder, we're going to have on April 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern, a workshop, a follow-up. It's the Make Art Workshop Part 2. This one will be geared more towards the business side of things, how to get your art out there in the world, how to deal with assholes, how to manage negotiations, how to deal with self-doubt, how to really shine your light out there, and why it's important now more than ever, because you have the power to create. We all do. We're all equal in that. It's just some of us lucked out in having opportunities to have it developed, or we really tenaciously, despite the family or the world we're born into, fought to get our art out. Everyone's different. Everyone has their sort of different drives and conditioning, but it's all, the power of creation is in all of us equally. It's just some people realize it more than others. And so this Make Art workshop that we're having on April 11, 7 p.m. is really our chance to lay it all bare. I will share all the ups and downs of my current projects, where things stand, and I'll be on hand to answer any question on the creative process, the business side of things, whatever comes to mind. No questions are dumb questions. In fact, my superpower is asking really dumb, delicious questions. And that's how I've been able to navigate my way through, is just trying to figure things out. Silly question after silly question. That's the building blocks of big projects. So come to that on Thursday, April 11th at 7 p.m. and look for info on how to join in the show notes for this week's episode. It is exclusive, of course, to our community at Patreon at the Truth Teller level and higher. So you can just buy your ticket there to join the event if you're not already part of that community. In this week's bonus episode, we look at the Kremlin Caucus, which is making all of our lives miserable. But are they as powerful as they seem? Or do they simply cast a big shadow? The answer is the same throughout history. It's the so-called adults in the room, the enablers, those who remain silent and refuse to stick their necks out. It's the complicity of silence that allows extreme executioners like the Kremlin Caucus to come to power. It has been this way from Mussolini to Hitler to Putin and now Trump. For a list of names of the Kremlin Caucus and the American corporations funding them as they actively work to dismantle our democracy from within and aid Russia's genocidal invasion of Ukraine, look to the show notes of this week's episode where we name names, including the American corporations throwing money at this. All right, so this is where our power lies, in putting light on all this and naming and shaming. Thank you so much to our Gaslit Nation community of listeners, especially on Patreon, who are doing a lot of grassroots power building to fight back against this. In the show notes, you'll also find an excellent resource built by a Gaslit Nation listener called helpukrainewin.com, where you can easily send a message to your rep in Congress calling them out. And I suggest you use it too to contact the Kremlin Caucus themselves and just be like, we're watching you. We're watching you. And we should be doing more stuff around this. And hopefully we can develop it with our community on how to also go after the corporations who are funding this, okay? Who are funding, once again, a genocide. Also, if you are infuriated by this discussion, good, that means you're human and that you have empathy. Channel all of that in the Gaslit Nation 2024 Survival Guide, which you can find right on our homepage at gaslitnationpod.com. That's gaslitnationpod.com. In this discussion, I'm joined by Russian mafia expert Olga Lautman and analyst Monique Camarra of the essential Kremlin Files podcast. This episode is available to our Gaslit Nation subscribers at the Truth Teller level and higher. So to never miss an episode of Gaslit Nation, get our full back catalog of bonus shows, all episodes ad-free, exclusive invites to virtual events, and more. Subscribe to Gaslit Nation on Patreon by signing up at patreon.com/gaslit. And that also gets you your ticket to the April 11, 7 p.m. Eastern Make Art Workshop Part 2. I'm so excited for that. I'm so looking forward to that. I want to hear what projects you're working on. You have until now and April 11th to start thinking of something. So whatever has been nagging at you, whatever is inspiring you, whatever you're thinking of, whatever's in the ether for you, bring that little germ of an idea to the Gaslit Nation Make Art Workshop on April 11. That's a Thursday, 7 p.m. Just bring it, just show up there, whatever shape it's in, we'll figure it out together. This is our chance to spitball ideas, to put all of our crazy ideas and questions on the table and just sort through things together. And I'm there to answer all your questions and talk through my process, both creative and business side. I love this stuff. I'm so excited to share it with you. Yeah, and thank you so much to this community. I got such a massive response on the Make Art Workshop that we published last fall. I promised everyone back then I would do another workshop like this. And the emails, the letters that have come in since the fall about this, you guys are a creative bunch that listens to the show. And I love you so much. And we're going to do big things together. And I'm so grateful for you and so thrilled for you. So I look forward to seeing the folks that are going to be there on April 11. And thank you, everyone. Now, without further ado, let's shine a white light on the stained sheets of the Kremlin Caucus.
Europe is a problem. I live here because we have everybody who's got a different voice. You've got in the States, you've got two parties where you've got one party that's been hollowed out and basically is just the Trump party. He said it himself. He said there's no longer the GOP. He said it's MAGA. All right, let's call it that. All right, let's be honest. Then you've got in the Dems, you've got inside different factions, okay, as well. Because let's not think of the Dems as some sort of monolith. They aren't. Inside, there are different factions. Each one has, their own. And as democratic people, we give voice to all these different factions that then have some sort of impact on the kind of policies. You know, I'm listening to everything that's going on in Israel, so on and so forth, with the Gazans and, the war, that's there. And I'm not going to step into that one because I have absolutely no idea what you would have to do, to solve that kind of situation. I really don't. In my heart, I don't. I don't like seeing people killed, obviously, children and everything else. That is obvious. But then you've got other factions inside the Dems that are saying, hold on a minute, This is not an easy thing. And we're sort of grappling in the dark thinking, what can we pull out from history that can help us? One thing that we should all remember is that even before the Second World War, in terms of totalitarian states, 20 million Russians were murdered under Stalin, even before the Second World War. These kind of things we should never forget, because as Olga said, and as Andrea, because your whole podcast is about this, I can sit here in front of this mic and I can still say what I need to say. This is what we need to remember always, right? What should be anchoring us in our discussions, healthy discussions and discourse. But certainly with Biden, I think he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't, do anything. I mean, he's really between a rock and a hard place, because if he does something, then you're going to have the whole GOP, a whole section that will try to stop him, as we've seen with the border, as we've seen with aid to Ukraine. Because let's not forget, it's not just him being, I don't know what to do. He's got another side that he's got to fight at the same time, right? We're in a democracy. You can't ignore that side. Even if they're, how can I put it? Even if they're using the situation, weaponizing it against Ukraine, you still have to deal with it somehow. And you can't just go and arrest Johnson. As Olga said, you need an investigation. You need to see what the hell's going on. Why? All right. It's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. Sorry, and I'm done. Olga?
No, and I'll add in Germany's case, and as Europe is realizing again, and and to bring up another Stalin mention, you have a lot of agencies just that are infiltrated. A lot of governments are infiltrated. Russia has outright funded, parties across Europe. They have funded parties in the United States in order to, sow discord and divide and to collapse us from within. So on top of everything else that we see, we have the foreign influence with actual professional intelligence agencies who are doing everything to destabilize us. And look, with the Palestinians, there were plenty of pro-Palestinian protests, and the majority of it is legitimate. People are expressing, but what in the hell were communist flags doing in some of them? And I'm not again saying the whole protest is this. But there's a problem when you have a foreign government hijacking a movement or a protest. And we saw this during the George Floyd protest, what Russia did. We see this now with that. We see this happening with Code Pink. Code Pink, if anyone believes Code Pink actually belongs to the United States, they're funded by, China and by Russia. So we have a big problem with that, and that's one of the other reasons that I keep talking about us, all of us, the whole West, taking measures to clean out all the spies inside of our agencies, our government, everywhere. And I mentioned the Stalin. There was an article that came out this morning in Moscow Times that Stalin, basically is back. And what it is referencing during the millions of Russians who, decide to flee instead of facing off with Russia and the Kremlin. And they fled mobilization, which at 1 million people, they would have overwhelmed security forces. It would have been literally 200 to 1. But they chose to flee. That Russia, and I had said it at that time, and I tweeted it at the time. And today, sure enough, a huge report comes out that in this whole wave, Putin used the same exact thing, what Stalin did, by embedding Russian agents to replenish all the Russian agents that have been thrown out across Europe and United States, under the guise of diplomats or whatever other, positions they held here, whether media or whatever their cover was. So over the past few years, we did an excellent job in rooting out Russian spies on our territory. But guess what? In one swipe, it said Putin specifically kept that border open to make sure that the Russians who flee, they can embed enough Russian agents into it to send them to Europe, to the Caucasus, and I'm not sure, I know to the United States. I know that there was an operation happening, I was told at least, on the Mexican border. And this was in 2022. So, this is a big problem that we need to speed up, because we cannot have Russian agents running amok and taking already our divided country and pouring, fuel would be an understatement, onto, this fire that already exists.